ahead and we'll know. Today we're going to work on a harvest wreath. We've got our dried branch wreath. We've picked up a couple little props here from one of the vendors. Like I said, you don't need a whole lot because we want to use ribbon. So again, we're going to start with some mesh. Make sure you have all of your props ready. We're going to do all different types of textures. We're going to use some wire raffia, some glitter, some natural ribbon, of course polka dots, pumpkins. Make sure you have your floral wire, your scissors, and your hot glue gun handy. Okay, after you've cut your piece of mesh, you want to go ahead and place it on your wreath. Just don't glue it down and don't wire just yet. You want to just semi-put it to kind of eyeball and see if you like the placement of what you're doing. So use your fingers, place it down, take your props, kind of get a feel for where you want to place things. You know, there's no, like I said in my last video, there's no right or wrong way of doing this, but you want to definitely place it so that it's somewhat symmetrical, or whatever balances out best. So we'll just start with this. We'll move this flower up a little bit into the mesh, and we'll start here. And that's a great way to place your items, and then you fill it with ribbon. We love the use of ribbon, so we want to make it nice and full. So we have all these empty spaces that we can put our ribbon, that we have all the different dimensions of ribbon, all different types of textures. And we're just going to go ahead and fill it in, and you'll watch the wreath come alive. Okay, so as we placed our mesh, we came down to the last piece. We tucked it, and we inserted the wire. Just insert it underneath the wood, and then you twist the wire together and pin it down. So we decided to go ahead and put another little mesh here because it seemed like it needed a little something. So put another piece of mesh, and then we're going to go ahead and take our scarecrow and place him here. And we'll go ahead and wire him down or hot glue him. We'll probably do both. You know, pin him down a little ways and then hot glue him so that you don't see the wire. But we're going to start with him and build around it. There's little loops underneath this particular scarecrow, so we were able just to insert the wire and then find a branch that's sturdy enough to tie it and tack it down. So we're just going to twist that floral wire and then hide it. Now that'll hold your scarecrow in place, and we'll come back with hot glue and put daubles of hot glue so that he's really pinned down. But he's wired down and he's not going anywhere. Okay, we've gone ahead and placed our scarecrow on the wreath, and we've made a bow. You know, everyone has a different way of making a bow, so we've just joined a multiple grouping here of pumpkins and polka dots and stripes, just different textures, and we've made our bow. What we're going to do is go ahead and cut a few strips for tails, and if you have one that has a pattern, sometimes it's best to cut it down the middle and flip it around. We did that. We just kind of stapled it so that the pumpkin will be going in the right direction. If not, you'd have an upside down pumpkin. Take the wires that you made. We used a floral wire to make our bow, and then we're just going to take that wire that we wrapped it with and wrap it around the tail. So we have a few tails in there. Just twist it, and we're going to attach it right here to the top. Again, we're just going to attach it to the wreath itself to make it stabilize. And then if it seems to wilt with weight, then you just go ahead and dabble your hot glue and pin it down. Okay, so what you want to do here is, after we've done the bow, we're not going to make another large bow. We have our large bow, so now we're going to go with like just some strips. So, you know, you want to, you know, prepare in advance. You just cut yourself a few strips of all the multiples of ribbon. You're going to go ahead and pinch those together. Together and cut a piece of wire. You're going to go ahead and wire that, and you're going to come up with this. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and place these strips just as fillers We'll put another one here. We'll fill it in, and then go ahead and make them a little bit longer so you can clip them to however you want it to be. If you want it long, you can just kind of bend it, or you can make them shorter and have them stick up. That's totally up to you. What I would suggest is cut them all the same, start with the same, and then decide, did you want to cut them down or not. It's always better to be a little bit longer than too short. Yep, and so then we'll start with these strips and then we'll see where it takes us. Okay, we're going to use this wire raffia, and it's a great ribbon for creating dimension. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to go back and forth, a few times, really into it. And what we're going to do is eventually finish, okay, with, cut this piece, cut a little piece, tie it in the center, twist it, and then we've created a bunch. And so what I want to do with this bunch is I'm just going to add a little bit of dimension. You see we've inserted our corn here with our strips, and we're going to go ahead and put that right there, giving it like a little bit of an effect, a little bit of like a straw effect, which sort of ties in the scarecrow's hair. Keep in mind, I just placed this last piece of strip here, and I've gone ahead, made my strips, tied it down to the wreath like we said, but you can get a feel for the ribbon just by looking at it. If you notice, these are a little long and they just kind of flop down. Even though it's a wired ribbon, it will tend to pull it down. And you can really just eyeball it and tell when you need to trim it. Here you can see this one sort of stands up and gives some fullness, and this one is laying a little flat. So just go ahead, and if you're not confident, you want to trim a little piece, try it with a small piece. If it still looks too long, well then go ahead and cut another little piece off. There's no wrong way of doing it, but you just have to really get a feel for the ribbon itself and make sure it's standing up. The last thing you want is to use all this beautiful ribbon, create this beautiful wreath, and then have things laying flat or droopy or dreary. It's just laying flat. You just really need to eyeball it and play with it and make sure you can get it to create the dimension you want it to create. Okay, so what we decided to do here was there's just a little empty space, which of course we're going to put our corn, but we thought we really didn't need a large bow because we had already created the large bow up at the top and we had filled in the dimension on the side. So instead, we just created a couple of loops, and I believe earlier we showed you just take a loop, pinch it, pull a few, tie it with a wire like we did with this one. You just kind of wire them together, and then we're going to insert that right in there again and tie it down, and then that just gives a little bit of the same look as the larger bow, but just with a small tail and a couple of loops to fill in that empty space there. So I've gone ahead, taken my hot glue gun, and I have dabbled around the scarecrow to make sure he's firm in place. Eyeballed it, took a look, and thought, as much as we loved it, we even like this more. It's a great ribbon that adds so much dimension and texture. Basically, it's just it's not really a wire, it's more like a plastic covered glitter. We cut a few pieces, and all we did was weave it into the basket and flip it around. It's as simple as that. We took it here, we just made a big loop, hooked it on the other end, weaved it in through the basket. Literally, you just take the end, slide it through, not the basket, I'm sorry, into the wreath, and give it a little dimension. The final product is your harvest wreath.